I was so excited about my birthday trip to the Colorado mountains. After 10 years of marriage to Amanda, our relationship had been falling apart over the past 2 years. She and her sister Jessica had been living in my house, barely contributing anything. I stood there with my bags packed ready for my first break in years, when Amanda shoved a long list of chores into my hands with a smirk on her face. I could not believe my ears when she said, "Where are you going? This trip is for us, not for you." Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that subscribe button to find out what picture I emailed them that had them rushing home in complete shock. I built my software development business from nothing. Long nights coding, skipped weekends, and countless cups of coffee went into making my company successful. By 30, I had established myself as a respected name in the industry. My life was devoted to creating innovative solutions that made everyday tasks easier for users. The satisfaction of seeing my work make a difference kept me pushing forward, even during the toughest challenges. I met Amanda at a tech conference in San Francisco. She was representing a marketing firm, and our booths were placed next to each other. I noticed her struggling with a display banner, so I offered to help. We spent that evening talking over dinner about our ambitions and dreams. Her energy captivated me, and her insights into consumer psychology seemed to perfectly complement my technical expertise. By the end of the conference, we had exchanged numbers and started dating long distance. Those early years were magical. We married after a year of dating, and Amanda moved to my home in Seattle. We would go hiking on weekends, cook elaborate meals together, and talk for hours about the future. I remember our first anniversary when we rented a cabin on Lake Washington and watched the sunset from a canoe. She surprised me with a custom watch engraved with the coordinates of where we first met. I still remember how it felt to be truly appreciated and loved. Everything started changing when Jessica lost her job and apartment in Chicago. Amanda begged me to let her sister stay with us temporarily until she found new employment. I agreed without hesitation, wanting to support family in need. Jessica arrived with 6 suitcases and immediately claimed our guest room as her permanent space, adding personal touches without asking. I brushed it off as her trying to feel at home in a difficult situation. The red flags started appearing slowly. Amanda began consulting Jessica about household decisions instead of me. Small things at first, like redecorating the living room without mentioning it to me or changing our weekend plans last minute. I justified her behavior, telling myself she was just happy to have her sister around. I ignored how she would check with Jessica before confirming plans with me or how my preferences were increasingly overlooked. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and suddenly Jessica had been living with us for 2 years. Her job search mysteriously never yielded results, despite the booming economy and her supposedly impressive qualifications. Every interview somehow went wrong. Every opportunity had some fatal flaw. Meanwhile, she enjoyed all the comforts of our home without contributing to mortgage utilities or even regular household chores. I watched as Amanda and Jessica formed an alliance that excluded me from my own home. They would have hushed conversations that stopped when I entered the room. Decisions about the house were made between them, with me only informed afterward. They established inside jokes and references I was not part of. My attempts to connect with Amanda privately were constantly interrupted by Jessica needing her attention for some urgent matter. While I worked harder than ever growing my business, they spent my money freely. Shopping bags appeared regularly, restaurant charges multiplied on our shared credit card, and expensive wine bottles filled our recycling bin. When I gently raised concerns about our budget, Amanda accused me of being controlling and reminded me how successful my business was. The subtext was clear: my role was to provide, not to question. Planning my birthday trip became my lifeline. After years of working nonstop, I needed time away to clear my head and reconnect with myself. I researched cabins in Colorado, finding a perfect spot near a lake with mountain views. I imagined peaceful mornings with coffee on the porch, hiking trails during the day, and evenings by a fireplace with a good book. For weeks, it was what got me through increasingly uncomfortable days at home. The night before my departure, I overheard Amanda and Jessica talking in the kitchen. Their voices carried up the stairwell as I was finishing some work in my office. "He really thinks this is his trip," Amanda said with a laugh. "Wait until he sees how many people are actually coming," Jessica replied. My stomach dropped as they discussed which of their friends would ride in which car and who would bring what supplies. Not once did they mention my preferences or that this was meant to be my birthday celebration. The morning of my birthday, I finished packing with a mixture of anticipation and dread. Despite the growing tension at home, part of me hoped this trip might help Amanda and me reconnect. Maybe away from Jessica and daily stresses, we could remember what brought us together. I zipped up my suitcase and headed downstairs, trying to stay positive despite the knot in my stomach. Amanda greeted me with a distracted, "Oh, happy birthday," while scrolling through her phone. No card, no gift, not even a meaningful look. 10 years of marriage had come down to this passing acknowledgement, less consideration than you would give a casual acquaintance. I stood there for a moment, waiting for something more, but she just continued scrolling. Then came the moment that finally opened my eyes. Amanda reached into a drawer, pulled out a long handwritten list, and shoved it into my hands with a smirk. "These need to be done before we leave," she said casually. The list contained everything from cleaning the gutters to reorganizing the garage storage system, tasks that would take days to complete properly. As I stood there holding the paper, my bags ready by the door, the truth of my situation hit me like a physical blow. I could not believe what was happening. "Amanda, it is my birthday, and I have been planning this trip for months," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "These chores would take days to finish. The cabin is already booked." She barely looked up from her phone. "So cancel it, or postpone it. These things need to get done, and Jessica and I have plans this weekend." Her tone was dismissive, as if my birthday and my plans were trivial inconveniences. Jessica walked into the room, then dressed in yoga pants and sipping a smoothie I had paid for. "What is the problem?" she asked, though her smirk suggested she knew exactly what was happening. "Amanda just handed me a list of chores to do instead of going on my birthday trip," I explained, still hoping one of them would recognize the absurdity of the situation. Jessica rolled her eyes. "You are always so dramatic, Harris. Besides, that trip was never just for you. We have all been looking forward to going to Colorado with our friends." That was the first I had heard about their friends coming along. "What friends?" "This is supposed to be my birthday trip. I booked a small cabin for some peace and quiet." Amanda laughed. "We upgraded to a bigger place. Megan, Taylor, and Sarah are coming too. It will be so much more fun than your boring plan of sitting around doing nothing." I opened my wallet and pulled out my credit card to check something. "Did you use my card for this upgrade?" The guilty look they exchanged answered my question before Amanda spoke. "We needed the space, and your card was the one with available credit," she said defensively. "Besides, you are always saying we should enjoy life. That is what we are doing." A quick check of my banking app confirmed my fears. They had maxed out my credit card on shopping sprees labeled as trip essentials. New clothes, spa products, and expensive wine filled the transaction list. There was even a charge for a jet ski rental that certainly had not been part of my original plan. The argument escalated quickly. When I pointed out that they had spent thousands without consulting me, Amanda called me stingy. When I reminded her that this was supposed to be my birthday celebration, Jessica mocked me for being childish about birthdays at my age. Every attempt I made to reason with them was met with dismissal or ridicule. "Harris, you need to grow up," Amanda said with cold eyes I barely recognized. "Marriage is not about getting your way all the time. Sometimes you need to put others first." The irony of her statement was staggering. When had either of them put me first in the past 2 years? I tried to pull Amanda aside to talk privately, hoping we could have a reasonable conversation away from Jessica's influence. "We need to discuss this between us," I said quietly. "This is about our marriage." Amanda pulled her arm away from my gentle touch. Anything you have to say to me, you can say in front of Jessica. We have no secrets. The unified front they presented made me feel like an outsider in my own home, my own relationship. Standing there, I was suddenly reminded of my childhood. My mother had been similarly controlling, dictating every aspect of my life while claiming it was for my own good. I had spent years in therapy working through that relationship only to find myself in the same pattern with Amanda. The realization sent a wave of nausea through me. I retreated to the bathroom, pulling out my phone to call Thomas, my best friend since college. We had drifted apart over the past year, and now I understood why. The call went straight to voicemail. I tried again with the same result, then sent a text asking him to call me when possible. I needed someone who knew me, someone who could help me see if I was overreacting or if the situation was as bad as it felt. Back in my home office, I sat at my desk feeling trapped. The house I had worked so hard to buy, the life I had built with such dedication, had become a prison. Pictures of happier times mocked me from the walls, reminding me of what had been lost. I opened my calendar to look at missed opportunities and saw a pattern I had never noticed before. Friends had apparently canceled plans repeatedly over the past year, according to notes Amanda had added. But something felt off about these cancellations. I called Jack, a college friend, who supposedly had bailed on our fishing trip 3 times. "Hey, I was just wondering what happened with our plans last summer," I asked. When he answered, there was a pause. "Harris, man, I thought you were ghosting me. Amanda told me you were too busy with work and needed to cancel." After the 3rd time, I stopped trying. My blood ran cold as I made similar calls to other friends. Each revealed the same pattern. Amanda had been systematically cutting me off from my support network, canceling plans in my name, and blaming my work schedule. The isolation had been deliberate and calculated. While searching for financial documents to assess the damage to my accounts, I discovered my personal savings account had been mysteriously emptied. This account had been separate from our joint finances, a safety net I maintained from before our marriage. According to the bank records, a transfer had been made to another account 3 weeks ago, one I did not recognize. In the same folder containing our financial information, I found emails Amanda had forgotten to delete. Messages between her and someone named Ryan contained explicit content and plans to meet while I was supposedly on business trips. The betrayal stung, but the calculated nature of the deception was what truly shocked me. These were not messages showing a marriage falling apart. They were exchanges between 2 people who saw nothing wrong with their behavior. The final discovery came when I found a draft legal document on Amanda's laptop which she had left open on her desk. She and Jessica had been consulting with a lawyer about how they could claim half my business in a divorce settlement, plus continued support for both of them. The document included strategies for establishing Jessica as a dependent and maximizing their financial claim on my assets. They had been planning to push me out of my own house and company, all while living under my roof and spending my money. Sitting there staring at the evidence of their betrayal, something shifted inside me. The fog of confusion and self-doubt that had clouded my judgment for years suddenly lifted. This was not what love looked like. This was not even what basic human decency looked like. For the first time, I clearly saw the emotional and financial abuse I had been enduring. I took a deep breath and made a decision. This would end today, but not with a confrontation that would give them the upper hand. Instead, I would proceed with calm strategy. While Amanda and Jessica were out picking up their friends, I called my lawyer, Bill Crawford. "Bill, I need your help with an emergency situation," I explained, then laid out everything I had discovered. To his credit, Bill did not express shock or pity, just professional concern and immediate action plans. "First, we need to protect your business and remaining assets," he said. "Forward me all documentation you have found and do not confront them yet. We need to move carefully here." While on the phone with Bill, I received a call from Thomas. I promised to call him back and spent the next hour securing my evidence. I photographed bank statements, downloaded emails, and made copies of the legal strategy document. Once everything was safely backed up in multiple locations, I returned Thomas's call. "Harris, what is going on? Your text sounded urgent," Thomas said, genuine concern in his voice. I gave him a condensed version of my situation. There was a long silence after I finished. "I knew something was wrong," he finally said. "Every time I tried to make plans with you, Amanda would say you were too busy or needed to focus on your marriage. When I pushed, she suggested I was being a bad influence. Eventually, I stopped trying, and I have felt guilty about it ever since." Thomas offered me a place to stay, no questions asked. His cabin in Colorado, ironically not far from where I had planned my birthday trip, was empty and available immediately. "Take some time to clear your head," he urged. "You do not have to decide everything right now, but you do need to get some distance." With Thomas's support renewing my resolve, I continued gathering evidence. Beyond the initial documents, I found credit card statements showing purchases of expensive jewelry and electronics I had never seen, suggesting gifts for Ryan or others. I discovered emails discussing how to pressure me into signing business documents that would have given Amanda partial control of my company. There were even messages between Jessica and Amanda strategizing how to isolate me from friends who might put ideas in his head. With Bill's guidance, I contacted my bank and implemented immediate protections on my remaining accounts and business assets. We filed emergency orders to prevent any further unauthorized transfers. The bank representative expressed concern about the obvious signs of financial abuse and fast-tracked the security measures. Late that afternoon, Amanda and Jessica returned home briefly to change before heading out again. Amanda announced they were meeting friends for drinks and would be leaving for their trip early the next morning. "Our flight to Denver is at 8 a.m., she informed me. "Make sure the house is clean before we get back tonight. We will be too busy packing to deal with it." "I understand," I replied calmly. "Have a fun tonight." My simple acceptance seemed to surprise and slightly disappoint them, as if they had been looking forward to another opportunity to berate me. They exchanged glances before heading upstairs to change. 20 minutes later, they left in Amanda's car, laughing about something on Jessica's phone. As soon as they were gone, I moved quickly and methodically. I packed only what truly belonged to me: clothes, personal items, important documents, family heirlooms, and my work equipment. I was careful not to take anything that could be considered joint property, leaving behind even gifts Amanda had given me over the years. I had no interest in their possessions or in giving them any grounds for accusations. I loaded my car efficiently, then took one last walk through the house where I had once been happy. In the home office, I set up a small security camera system that would allow me remote monitoring, a legal precaution Bill had suggested given the value of items I was leaving behind. Then I wrote a brief note stating I was taking personal time and left it on the kitchen counter. The drive to Colorado took nearly 14 hours, but each mile put more emotional distance between me and the toxic environment I had been living in. I arrived at Thomas's cabin just as the sun was rising over the mountains. The peaceful setting was exactly what I had envisioned for my birthday retreat, though the circumstances were vastly different than I had planned. After settling in and getting a few hours of sleep, I checked the security feed. Amanda and Jessica had returned home around 3 a.m., clearly intoxicated. They had apparently not noticed my absence yet. I used the quiet morning hours to set the final part of my plan in motion. I laid out the divorce papers Bill had emailed me on the rustic wooden table of the cabin. Next to them, I placed a printed copy of Amanda's legal strategy: document her emails with Ryan and bank statements showing the unauthorized transfers. I took a picture with the papers clearly visible, the stunning mountain view serving as backdrop. The contrast between the beautiful landscape and the ugly truth in those documents seemed fitting. With steady hands, I composed an email to Amanda, Jessica, and our respective lawyers. The message was brief: "I know everything, all of it. My lawyer will be in contact to move forward with divorce proceedings. I have copies of all documentation shown in this photo." I attached the picture and pressed send. The security cameras allowed me to watch as Amanda checked her phone the next morning and let out a scream that brought Jessica running. They huddled over the screen, faces contorting with shock and panic. The realization that their scheme had been discovered sent them rushing through the house, presumably looking for me. Their shock turned to frantic activity as they began searching drawers and closets. I watched as they checked places where valuables would typically be kept, their panic increasing when they found everything exactly where it should be. They had expected me to take revenge by taking their possessions, revealing how they would have behaved in my position. The fact that I had only taken my personal belongings seemed to confuse and worry them even more. My phone rang continuously for the next hour. I declined calls from Amanda and Jessica, but answered when Bill called to inform me that Amanda's lawyer had been in contact, suddenly eager to discuss an amicable separation. I allowed myself a small smile at the rapid change in their strategy, now that their original plan had been exposed. When I finally answered Amanda's call that evening, her voice had none of the contempt from our last interaction. Instead, she alternated between tearful apologies and angry accusations, a manipulation tactic I now recognized clearly. "Harris, this is all a misunderstanding," she began. "Those papers were just Jessica's friend asking for advice about her divorce. And those emails, Ryan is just a colleague. You are overreacting and embarrassing both of us." "Amanda," I replied calmly, "the legal papers have your name on them. The emails are from your account. The bank transfers have your electronic signature. There is no misunderstanding here. You cannot just walk away from 10 years of marriage," she shouted, abandoning the innocent act. "You have responsibilities to me. This house is half mine, and you owe Jessica for all her help around the house. All of that will be addressed through our lawyers," I responded, maintaining my composure. "The documentation has been secured and backed up in multiple locations. Any attempt to access my business accounts or additional personal funds will only strengthen my case." Her tone changed again, becoming pleading. "Harris, we can work this out. I made some mistakes, but I still love you. Come home and we can talk about this face to face." "There is nothing left to discuss, Amanda. Legal papers are waiting for you at Bill's office. I suggest you focus on finding new accommodation for yourself and Jessica, as the house will be sold as part of the settlement." 6 months later, I was settled into a new home in a different neighborhood. The divorce had been finalized with terms heavily influenced by the evidence of Amanda's misconduct. My business remained solely mine, and the court had recognized the financial abuse I had endured. The house had been sold with proceeds divided according to my original investment, which had been substantial. My company continued to thrive, with several new clients signing on after I returned to work with renewed focus and energy. The break from constant emotional stress had allowed me to reconnect with my creativity and passion for development. Projects that had seemed overwhelming now flowed easily, and my team noticed the positive change in my leadership. I had reconnected with old friends Amanda had pushed away. Thomas and I resumed our regular fishing trips, and Jack invited me to join his weekly poker game. These renewed connections helped heal the isolation I had experienced. Each conversation, each shared laugh, restored something that had been systematically stripped away during my marriage. I also made new friends who had no preconceived notions about me. A hiking group introduced me to people who shared my love of the outdoors, and a local business networking event connected me with entrepreneurs who understood the challenges I had faced building my company. These relationships were based on mutual respect and genuine interest, a refreshing change from the manipulation I had grown accustomed to. The divorce settlement required Jessica to move out of the house before it was sold. According to mutual acquaintances, she had been forced to finally find employment and her own apartment. Amanda had moved in with a friend temporarily, but was struggling to maintain the lifestyle she had become accustomed to. The reality of supporting herself had apparently come as a shock after years of living off my income. Amanda made several attempts to re-establish contact outside of the necessary divorce proceedings. She sent emotional emails reminiscing about our early days together. She had mutual friends convey messages about how much she had changed and learned from her mistakes. Once she even showed up at my office with a gift and tearful apology. Each time I maintained firm boundaries, redirecting any communication through our respective lawyers. My healing journey included weekly sessions with Dr. Martin, a therapist specializing in emotional abuse recovery. Through our work together, I came to understand the patterns that had made me vulnerable to Amanda's manipulation. My desire to please others and avoid conflict stemmed from childhood experiences with my controlling mother. Recognizing these patterns was the first step toward ensuring I would not repeat them in future relationships. I developed a new appreciation for the red flags I had ignored. The gradual isolation from friends, the dismissal of my opinions and feelings, the unilateral financial decisions all had been warning signs I chose not to see. Dr. Martin helped me understand that noticing these signs was not about being suspicious but about having healthy self-respect and boundaries. Self-care became an important part of my routine. Regular exercise cleared my mind and strengthened my body. Meditation helped manage anxiety that surfaced during stressful moments. I rediscovered hobbies abandoned during my marriage, finding joy in photography and cooking for myself and friends. Each activity reinforced my autonomy and rebuilt my sense of identity outside of the relationship that had tried to diminish me. The most important lesson I learned was the value of trusting my instincts. So many times during my marriage, a quiet voice had tried to alert me to problems, but I had silenced it in the name of keeping peace. I vowed never again to ignore that inner wisdom. Setting and maintaining boundaries became a practice of self-respect rather than selfishness. As I sat on the deck of my new home watching the sunset, I reflected on the journey of the past year. From the birthday that had opened my eyes to the life I was now creating, each step had been necessary. The pain had led to growth, the loss to new possibilities. I was not the same person who had stood holding that list of chores with disbelief. That man had been diminished by constant criticism and manipulation. This version of me stood taller, thought clearer, and valued himself appropriately. The future stretched before me with possibilities I was now free to explore. New business ventures, potential relationships based on mutual respect, travels to places I had always wanted to see. All were now within reach. The path forward would have its own challenges, but I would face them with the wisdom earned through experience and the strength rebuilt through recovery. Have you ever found yourself making excuses for someone who consistently disrespects your time, feelings, or contributions? What was your breaking point, and how did you reclaim your power? Share your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. And remember, sometimes walking away is the strongest thing you can do. Thank you for listening to my story, and may you find the courage to honor your own worth in every relationship you choose.